Oh yes, this is it. This is the long and detailed video about the Nissan Leaf Rapidgate, the 40 kWh version, the trip I took a couple of days ago. So this will be, a very detailed video with lots of technical details here. So yes, if you're interested in this, bring your, bring popcorn, your favorite snack or whatever, and drinks, and yeah, prepare for a very long video. I made this video purposely for people who consider buying a Leaf, maybe, or maybe you already have a Leaf and you just want to figure out what the heck is going on, why it's charging slow, and what you can do with it. Also, I mean, even if you don't have a Leaf, you will buy a Leaf, but there will be lots of technical stuff here that could be useful. Yeah, anyway. So a little bit about the trip. So the trip was from Oslo to Trondheim and back again. Most of you guys know this route very well if you follow me. It's 922 kilometers round trip, which is pretty far. And I use this app called Leaf Spy, where you can poke into the car's computer and gather lots of info. So I use data from the Leaf Spy logs combined with Google Maps timeline, and also some of the live stream and also some of the video footage I took to gather them. And but most of the data is from Leaf Spy log. And I started at around 8:30 in the morning, and I came home 3 at night. So the whole trip took about 19.5 hours. Took forever, yes. But on the other hand, okay, so I had a 6-hour stop time, and I was DC fast charging about 5.5 hours of that time. And I also calculated the driving time was about 16.5 hours. Yeah, so that equals to an average speed of 60 kilometers per hour, which is actually pretty slow. But I mean, I had some city driving in Trondheim, and I also tried to drive slow towards the end just to see if that would do something with the results. And also another thing I recorded in the logs was the state of health, which kind of tells you about degradation in the battery. And the state of health went from 99.61 to 99.59. Yeah, I don't know how much that is, but yes, I mean, either way, when you drive the car and do discharge, you will degrade the battery. So here you see some of the log file. It's very detailed. It has lots of variables, stuff that I don't even know what the heck is. So I try to filter out the information I don't need, and I found all the information I needed. So I spent pretty much yesterday evening and today almost all day just just processing all this data. So the first diagram looks like this. It's the drive. Now you see I drove from Oslo to Espa. It's about 80 kilometers, but I don't want to list up all the variables. But anyway, what is important here is that you see the blue line there. That is the speed in kilometers per hour. And also, by the way, because we have so many variables here, I will stay to metric. Yes, so sorry for Americans or whatever who use imperial. It's just too much I cannot show you all of this. But I'll do my best. So you see that for you guys who know this route, by the way, you see that most of this route has 110 kilometers per hour speed limit, and people drive faster than that. So and this is GPS reported speed. This is not the speed in the speedometer, because actually you see that I was driving around 100, little over 100 kilometers per hour. And the speedometer, I was cruising at 110 kilometers per hour on the speedometer, and on at least on my GPS on Glimpse it reported about 102 to 103. So keep in mind that the speedometer in the Leaf shows very much off, and this it's not only with this Leaf, it's with other Leafs I tried, and also pretty much most other cars like the Kia, the Ioniq, whatever, they also show significant percentage off. Only Tesla will show almost the correct one. Tesla is just like 1-2 kilometers per hour off only. So in comparison, if I was cruising at 110 with a Tesla, it would be like 108 real speed, 107, 108 or something like that. But you see that I try to limit myself this time. I didn't want to drive too fast, so I tried to cruise, but on the other hand, not too slow, right? And you see that the green line here is the state of charge dropping. So we have on the x-axis, you have time here. So I also tried to figure out what would be the best like units to use. I think this one makes most sense. You do stretch it over time, at least for the traveling diagram. And then on the bottom there, you see we have 3 sensors, T1, T2, and it's actually called T4. When the Leaf has 4 sensors, but the one of them wasn't reporting anything. And actually the T3 is in reality T4, but you know, it will look awkward if you guys didn't see T3, so I just rename it to T3, but it's actually T4 sensor. And the T1 is always the highest one. I don't know where they measure. I don't know details about that. But I also see that there are different logs. This is like the total log, and there's also a separate log for charging sessions. And on that charging log, only the T1 sensor is being reported. So I think the T1 sensor is what the other vloggers has been, you know, referring to when they also look at Leaf Spy, and that is the highest one. But at least I chose to show all 3 of them, so you can see that, you know, they are there, and some are higher, some are lower. So you see that by the way, the speed was pretty even, and I used cruise control, adaptive cruise control, and there wasn't too much traffic, so I could actually cruise at the desired speed most of the route here. When I arrived in Espa, you see it on the next one here, I had about, well, I was about 18, I think about 18, 19 degrees Celsius. So by the way, if you go back to the first one, you see that when I started, the battery was pretty cold. It was like, I think it was around 10 degrees Celsius. So you start with a fairly cold battery. It wasn't like bottom frozen cold because it was, you know, below 0 degrees Celsius. But I drove a little bit yesterday and I fast charged. I mean, the day before, yeah. So it kept some of the temperature, and also I was charging overnight. But you saw that during the trip to Espa, the temperature gradually, slowly went up. That is natural because you discharge a battery and then you will have some heat loss, and yeah, it just naturally warms up like that. But okay, back to Espa. So you see, at Espa I started fast charging, and I didn't really have to fast charge there because you see now the x-axis is slightly different, because here I use the x. I mean, the x is now state of charge. Yeah, I don't look at time, so I do it like this. It could be a little bit confusing, but I think this makes more sense. Yeah, and you see that I arrived with 52% state of charge. And by the way, there's like a you know, the state of charge reported by Leaf Spy is not the same one as displayed, and I will come back to that later. But this one, the one I show you here, is from Leaf Spy, so it's the true state of charge. But basically, towards the end, the car will hide about 10% state of charge. Yeah, so let's say if you are at 5% at the bottom here, Leaf Spy will report 15%. So it's a very good reason. I'll come back to that. But so you see that I arrived here with 52%, right? That would be, I think it was 55%. Yeah, I remember it was 55% on the display. So I didn't have to stop here, but what was it again? I had to stop there for a reason. I think I want some buns. I was live streaming and people were cheering me to get some buns. So I got to grab some buns. Otherwise, I could have driven further before I needed to charge. But it was also interesting to stop here because here we see that, you know, the charging speed, the blue line here, that's now in kilowatt, you know, charging speed. It kind of fluctuates, and I don't know. I was expecting to. Well, I didn't expect it to go all the way up either, because I kind of knew it was cold, and this is probably the reason why I didn't get maximum speed, because the battery was too cold. You know, around below 20 degrees Celsius, not hot enough to you know, safely charge it at full, because that's how lithium batteries work. That in order to charge it at full speed, you want to have like a given temperature. Yeah, that's the same thing with Tesla or with all the other cars also. So you see, it just went up and down, and then the temperature also slowly rise, and you see there's like a dip there at 62%. Now Leaf Spy, I have this OBD Bluetooth thing that you plug in the car, and then it will send via Bluetooth all the data to my phone, and the phone logs everything. But when I shut off the car, because I had to go to the restroom and I had to buy some buns. And then when the car is shut down, then it doesn't send anything. So the phone was still on, Leaf Spy was on, but it didn't receive any data. So that's why you have this like leap in timeline. You see that we suddenly leap from 62 to 68% state of charge, and something happened there meanwhile. So there will be some cases where I have to do this, because I can't keep the car running, because then I can't lock the car. At least I don't know how to do it, so I don't want to keep the car unlocked like that. Yeah. So anyway, I didn't want to charge too far, so I charged it to like 70%, and I figured, okay, let's go to the next one, right? So the next one here is interesting. So this is again, the driving diagram, and so we switched again from state of charge in the x axis to time instead. This is a pretty long drive, because on this leg I wanted to see how far I could drive, and I also wanted to see, to go deep, right, to go low, because I heard about that. You can even go below the 0% on the display. Again, okay, I should comment again the speed. So you see, I still stayed at 100 kilometers per hour. I didn't cruise at 110, which was the speed limit, because I knew that Leaf does not have the best drag coefficient, and so it doesn't like to drive that fast. Yeah, and I also, all this time, I try to I try to simulate what a typical Leaf driver would do, and many times when I drive past Leaf, they drive that fast on the motorway. But of course, there are cases where I've seen, some Leaf drivers that drive like they stole the car. Like, what the heck? Normally, when I drive with a trailer, I'm limited to the speed limit. I mean, to 80 kilometers per hour, even on 110 zone. And then sometimes, Leafs that just fly by me. I'm like, okay. So, that means that I was trying to be a typical Leaf driver, yeah. But you see that, so eventually I got off the motorway, and then the speed dropped, and then also the speed dropped even more when I got to the typical, between Hamar and Elverum. It's always slow, and you see the speed goes up and down, because people don't use cruise control, I guess. So this is typical, traffic. Yeah, just follow the traffic with adaptive cruise control. But you also see something else, that during this drive, the temperature slowly rise. Yeah. And I guess, well, should I comment more of the speed? I guess after Elverum, you see that we have some flat curves there. Well, actually, there's like, okay, after Elverum, there was less traffic, because most people, I think, they went for Trysil. So you see that there's like this spike, and that's probably when I hammered it and overtook some cars. That's where you get that speed spike. But also you see that temperature also goes up when I floor it. So yeah, that is not optimal. If you don't want to generate too much heat, then you shouldn't floor it. Yeah, but then you see something here that towards the end. So I tried to go really low this time, and well, it's kind of hard to see it here, but because we have so many variables in here, and yeah, and so the range is like really wide. But I try to calculate the temperature delta. I mean the temperature difference, right? And you can see that when we started driving with 70% state of charge, the temperature went a little bit up, and then actually a little bit down, probably because of the traffic, before Elverum. And then it went a little bit up again. That could be because of the hammering, and had less traffic. I can drive faster, So it was like going up and down, but at the very end, you see that right before I arrived at Koppang, I also noticed that on the app, on the Leaf Spy app, that the temperature went up much faster than before. So you see, I tried to calculate now. So it was like 8% was the lowest when I stopped, and 8% was actually, I mean, the display the car's display showed 0 and Leaf's by said 8%. I was pretty scared because I had no idea the car could shut down anytime, you know. There was no guarantee that it would just keep driving. So, but fortunately, it didn't stop. But towards the end, I saw that the temperature went up. So, you know, the last line here, I calculated that if I would go from 11 to 6% just to have that same frame, right? Then I would gain 1% during that 5% state of charge discharge. But compared to the other, so you see it basically towards the end, the temperature goes up more than before. And why is that? Well, it's because of heat loss at low state of charge. So I'm going to explain a little bit more here. You have this formula, you know, the heat loss can be expressed by P equals to I, the squared, okay, so which again, the squared, right? Wait, I in the power of 2, yeah. And then times R. I is the current, and then R is internal resistance. Now I don't know what the heck, what internal resistance is in this battery, and also internal resistance is not constant. But just to, I don't know, simplify the equation a little bit, I omit the internal resistance, and also I look at the log. So you know, at 50% state of charge, the voltage is higher. So I found in the log that the voltage was 349 volts, and also I found this one, like, you had to, this becomes very technical, but I had to find one record where I had this power output, because you cannot just take the voltage and say, okay, at this voltage, I don't know, 100 amp output. No, because with higher output, the voltage will drop. So meaning that, you know, for instance, if the battery voltage would be 350 volts, right? If you pull out more, then voltage will drop more, versus when you pull out little, then voltage drop is smaller. So yeah, but you see, at 50%, you have to pull about 34.5 amp to get 12 kilowatt output, you know, just for, this is for propulsion, for just accelerating or doing whatever I had to do, you know, go uphill or do something. 12 kilowatt output is not too much, you know, it's like, quick math, I think it's like 16, 17 horsepower maybe. But you take that one and you have to like square it, and then you get 1190, which is a number, right? Okay, but then, and then you look at the state of charge at 30%, and 30% has lower voltage, so that means that the current or a number of amps has to be higher in order to get the same output, right? So then you take that one, 36 squared, and you get some number, right? And then you look at if it was 8%, that was in my case, and the voltage is significantly lower, and then the number of amps it has to be higher, and then you get this other number here, and just do some quick math, and at low state of charge you have as much as 11 to 21% higher heat loss. So that is something you don't want. So in other words, what I'm saying is that you shouldn't go deep, you shouldn't go too low. I think in the earlier video, in the like the non-detailed video, I said 15%, but I mean on hindsight, I think you can go down to 10%. Yeah, but don't try to go below 10%. There seems to be very many disadvantages going below 10%. So I think, okay, try to stay, you know, not go under 10% on the display, which is about 20% in Leaf Spy. Yeah. All right, so let me see, so much stuff. So anyway, so when I arrived at Koppang, then I had a long stop because I was hungry, you know, and I was, yeah. So you see now, charging graph looks like this, and the blue line here is the charging power, and you see it starts at a little over 40 kilowatt, and then it gradually goes up, and this has a very natural explanation, because these fast chargers, they can only output a certain amount of amps, unlike, for instance, the Tesla supercharger. Tesla supercharger can output a lot more amps than the car can take. And the smart thing is that with the Tesla one, when you arrive at low voltage, right, the Tesla will output more amps. But here you see that the amp is constant. Is this fast charger, the 50 kilowatt DC fast charger, can output 121 amp, which is pretty common. I haven't seen many output 125, which is the maximum rated for these type of fast chargers. So and also I also look in the log, and at low state of charge, the voltage was only 333 volt. You multiply that by 121 amp, and you get about 40 kilowatt. But at the very top there, close to 60%, the voltage was 376 volt, and then you get more speed. So this is why you gradually get this one. Now there's a dip there at, I don't know, 45% state of charge. I don't know what the heck that was. Yeah, I don't know. Did I play with the air conditioning? Maybe not. I'll come back to that also. Could be. Yeah, I don't know. But again, you also have this sudden increase, and that is because I was in a gas station to grab a burger, and there were lots of customers there, so I had to wait maybe like, I don't know, 10 minutes before they finished my burger, and then I can come back to the car. And again, the car was locked, and I wasn't logging anything while I was gone. So unfortunately, we lost that data, but it's still good enough. What another thing you should see here is that, okay, you see that the temperature goes up like crazy during this charging session, because we charge long. We charge from like almost at the bottom. It was pretty much rock bottom compared. In that display, right, all the way to like 77%. So you did a pretty long charging session here, and you see that at 60%, pretty much spot on at 60% state of charge, the car will start tapering off the charging speed. Yeah. So keep in mind that if you are on a long, like a shorter trip where heat doesn't matter, then you should, for optimal speed, charge it to about 60-65%, maybe to 70%, but you also see that it slows down. Yeah, so 60 is the magic number. Then up to you how far you want to go past that. But you see that the car, the BMS allowed the car to just push the temperature like way high, close to 50%. So I had my burger, I ate my burger, I was sitting there chatting with people, and I was like, okay, 77%, I guess that's enough, yeah, let's go. So then the car was, the battery was nice and warm, right? So I drove from Skjell to Alvdal, and see this one, okay, nothing special, I guess. State of charge drops as expected, and speed was like, you see, it wasn't as smooth as some of the other graphs before, because if I remember correctly, I was following someone, just using adaptive cruise control. So that's why it's not like, smooth as that. And then I had some spikes. That's probably some, could be some, yeah. And there's like this spike at 12:47, I guess. I think I overtook someone. And you'll also see that the heat goes up a little bit. So the heat was slowly, going down. So overtaking is not good for heat. And also, if you go uphill, that will also show in the graph that the heat goes up, because you need more power output. But the shock came in Alvdal. Yeah. We are now at Skjell, Alvdal. Yeah, this is not too scenic. I don't care too much about the scenic stuff today. What we are looking for is... Oh, shit! Just as people have been complaining about, we are only getting 22 kilowatts right now. Oh, man, already? 22 kilowatt. 45 degrees Celsius. Oh, shit. This was exactly what everyone else was getting. Let me just look at the screen here. But this screen is not lying. You can see here. What? Are you serious, man? 22 kilowatt. Ouch. 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 Now, I tried really everything. I didn't hammer it. I saved energy. You can see here. No, stop that music. 16, that is pretty low, 16.1. I did all my best to conserve energy. I use recirculation even. This one is on, you see, recirculation and stuff. So heater was low, everything, but still. Ouch. Okay, I'm not sure what to do now, because what can we do to improve this? We can slow down. That will help, because by slowing down, you will consume less energy, less power output. That means you give the battery more time to cool down, and then also you need less power on each, less energy on each fast charging session. So I guess the only solution now is to slow down. But I don't want the semis behind me, because I was cruising more or less the same speed as the semis would do. So this is not good. This is bad news. Let me see. Let me switch off the heater for now. Okay, so it was 21. It should go up a little bit. Okay, it's to 22. Yeah, so the heater was sucking what, 1 kilowatt. Oh. Yeah. Okay, I will try to slow down a little bit. So I was cruising at 88. I'm going to drop my speed to about 85, and hopefully I don't get the trucks behind me. Yeah. Let's see if that helps. Slow down by just a little bit. It shouldn't matter, like, time-wise. Actually, I might arrive faster. Yeah. Because of this. But you know what? I'm gonna go to the restroom, and yeah, then we are good to go. So yeah, you see, I was actually hoping that it wouldn't happen, and then was like, what? The exact same thing that happened to other people. So I don't know what to say. The battery was pretty hot, 45 degrees Celsius when I plug it in, and then as expected, I guess, by many people, charging speed was very low. And you see something here that this charging speed is kind of high in the beginning, and then it kind of dips down, and then it goes up again, all that. What is this? Well, this is the heater, because the car, the BMS set this maximum speed, right, allowed to charge. It was 22 kilowatt. And then when I turn on the heater would steal some of this, and then the battery gets less. So actually, I learned that the kilowatt displayed the kilowatt that you receive, what the car displays is including, it's from the charging station. Okay, so it's not what you are charging at right now. So for instance, if you for instance 30 kilowatt is max, and you run the heater, and the heater takes 2 kilowatt, then the battery only get 28 kilowatt. You will see 20, and you will see 30 on the display, but Leaf Spy will show you that heater takes 2 kilowatt, and then the battery gets 28. So the car will not ask for 32 kilowatt. That would be cool, if we do that. Yeah, it doesn't work like that. I think it has something to do that, the car gets all the juice from the charger, and then the heater takes the energy from the main battery. Yeah. So yeah, I'm not sure how the other cars work, like Tesla or Ioniq or whatever. Maybe I need to get TM Spy and start digging into that too. But also another fun fact is that some people commented that, what the heck, why do you use AC? It's cold outside. Well, the AC is heat pump, which is more efficient. The heat pump is about 3-4 times more efficient than the resistive heater, PTC heater. And Leaf Spy, most of the time you see that the Leaf Spy would consume about, would draw like 1 to 1.3 kilowatt, which is pretty efficient to like, in that cold, it was like, -8 to -10, -15 at some places, I think. Pretty cold, but it was very efficient. I have to say, throughout the trip, the consumption on Leaf was exceptionally low. Like, I don't know, it was very low. Yeah, it was like about 160 to 170 watt-hour per kilometer. Yeah. But anyway, so back to my point that but the Leaf also has a PTC heater. the PTC heater heats up faster than the heat pump. Heat pump normally needs some time to, you know, start up and whatever. But also when you wanna heat up fast, then the PTC heater and the heat pump works together. Yeah, that's the pink thing there. So that's pretty cool. And also the owner of this car, he said that in his 24 kWh Leaf, he doesn't seem to have the PTC heater, because when he was driving in really cold weather, like I don't know how cold it was, like probably like minus 20 something, right? Then the efficiency on the AC pump is really low, and it was almost freezing inside the car. So it would be, in that case, I believe that the PTC heater would take over. And by the way, in the Tesla, oh, it's getting dark, by the way. Okay. So in the Tesla does not have does not use you know, the heat pump for heating, and also once again there's another car, Ampere E, also both does not use it. They use only PTC heater. Yeah, it's less efficient, but on the other hand, the Tesla uses some smart management about you know, using leftover heat from battery and motor to heat up the cabin and stuff like that. Yeah. But yeah, so anyway, next drive is from Alvdal to Kvikne. So nothing special here, but by the way, there's something I should point out, that on my journey to now, I stayed a little bit over the speed limit. If you go back to the Koppang to Alvdal, you see that, you know, my speed was around like 88, I think it was 87, 88 kilometers per hour. I tried to match the same speed as the trucks do, because trucks, they always drive over the speed limit within the safe zone. But the reason why I drove at their speed is because I didn't want trucks to be at my rear fender, you know. Well, I realized later that it wasn't too much traffic, that maybe because it was Easter. So from Alvdal to Kvikne, I lowered my speed, and you see that it was like some places like Rocky Mountains, because I think I followed some cars, and they didn't drive, you know, I don't know if they even use, I don't think they use cruise control. Yeah. But so I followed them, and I set the cruise control to 90 kilometers per hour this time, which is about 83 kilometers per hour real speed. And that seems to help on the heat buildup, because up until now we had, you know, increasing heat or stable, but now we have decreasing heat. But on the other hand, now we also have more heat and higher temperature, because when the battery is cold, let's say it was, you know, 10-20 degrees Celsius, then the difference between 10-20 versus outside temperature is not that high, because well, I forgot to mention, the Leaf has this passive cooling. It doesn't have active cooling of the battery, but it has some passive cooling. I don't know how it works, but apparently when you drive, it forces some air through whatever to cool down the battery. Yeah, it's probably some simple solution to it. Yeah, so well, what was I gonna say again? I kind of lost it now. But yeah, so I try to drive, you know, carefully this time. Yeah, no, I remember. Oh, sorry for that. But the difference, that's the key, the difference in temperature, because when the battery is kind of cold, then the diff is not that high. But now when we have like 45, close to 50 degrees Celsius, then the diff between that and outside temperature was pretty high. So that's why it cools down more. Yeah. And then, okay, Alvdal to Kvikne. You see that when I arrived in Kvikne, then it was as expected, you know, slow speed, 25 kilowatts, slightly better, yeah, because I think I tried to actively, you know, get the temperature down, so that seemed to help. 25 kilowatt is still better than, you know, 22 I had in Alvdal. But not too interesting graph here. You see that temperature, because we are charging at so low rate now, the temperature doesn't go up that much, obviously, yeah. This is also, you know, you can, this is just like before when I talk about heat loss. You know, you have the P equal to I squared R, whatever. Yeah. And then I didn't stay too long, because I knew I want to top up in Berkåk. So I drove to Berkåk, and again, same here. You see that my speed was not too high, so I lowered my speed from 88 to, you know, 83, 80 something, and also follow some cars. And then when I joined on E6, there was more traffic and slower speed. So then I just followed the traffic. You see that this time I didn't hammer it. I was being a good boy. Yes. So I didn't hammer it. The hammering will show up as like this spike. Yeah. And again, temperature dropped, but not fast as I would hope it would drop. So as expected, again in Bangkok, I wasn't getting too much speed, but at least I was getting like 26, yeah, almost 26, 27. So again, slowly better than before. Just slowly getting better. So I tried to do my best to recover from this. And then at Bangkok, I also considered. By the way, you have a little dip here. I went to the restroom, so you have that little dip there, bump there up there, where there was no logging. But also at Bangkok, I considered what should I do, because I had to go to Trondheim and deliver some furniture, pick up some furniture, and go back again. And where should I charge, right? So there was a charging station in Trondheim, but I didn't want to take those detours, and I know that I had to drive via Støren anyway. And another thing is that normally when I drive a Tesla, Støren is like a detour. It's not right by the highway. You have to go to the city center, which is slower. But in this case, because I wanted to drive slow to cool down the battery, then it was actually an advantage to go to Støren. So the Støren that is, yeah. So we set off for Støren. Not too much here. You see the speed is going up and down, but kind of slow, yeah. And again, no hammering. Just follow the traffic, stay behind, and let the temperature drop as much as possible. Is there anything else to say here? Nah. And then it's at Støren. 20 was again about 27 kilowatt, but I turned on the heater, and then the speed dropped a bit, and temperature also went up during the charging session. But I had to, even though it was slow, this one, I had to juice up enough so I could go back again to Støren, and I didn't want to take a detour to visit a fast charger in Trondheim. So then here we have the trip to Trondheim, which looks like, I don't know, Rocky Mountains, but speed is always interesting. Yeah, see, I didn't drive too fast. I stayed within. I stayed behind most traffic. That's why you don't see any crazy spikes here. But there was a stretch on 90 zone. There was like a dude who was driving, I don't know, very slow. It was very annoying because he was driving very slow. There was a huge line behind him, and then on the passing lane he speeded up. I was like, oh man, so I just want to get past him. That's why you have a little spike there. Yeah, it wasn't me. Yeah, it was autopilot. It was ProPilot. But again, that spike, you can also see that spike at 1635, the temperature also went up a little bit. Yeah, so yeah. And then in Trondheim, I had a stop for 16 minutes. And I had this big ass furniture I took out, and then I loaded the car with 6 chairs. It could take 6 chairs and probably more. So I have to say that car is that's the thing. The Leaf is really great when it comes to cargo space. Not many other cars in the same price range can match Leaf, maybe except for ENV 200. But Leaf has lots of space. It beats pretty much everything on the market there on EV. But anyway, at my friend's house, I figured, okay, let me try UMC. So I plug in the UMC. The UMC works on the Leaf because it's just Type 2, So I plug it in. I got 3 kilowatt. It was one Happy Panda. I stayed there for 16 minutes, and I saw that the temperature dropped by 1 degree Celsius from 43 to 42, and I gained 2% state of charge. So that was nice. It was always nice to gain some juice while I'm cooling down also. And then I set off again back to Støren. Yeah, and you see now it was like in the afternoon, evening. So on a public holiday, so there wasn't too much traffic, and you see that those really straight, smooth lines. That's when I was cruising with the cruise control with no traffic in front of me. Yeah. But again, here you see that I was a good boy. I didn't hammer anyone, so there was no spike. I didn't overtake. Yeah, try to get the temperature down as much as possible. And also you see that there's like this dip here at 17, 18. Yes. Oh wait, 5. at 5:18, right, in the afternoon. That dip in like temperature going up and then state of charge going down is the motorway, or is that road out from Trondheim, where you have some significant elevation. Yeah, because afterwards the temperature went down, because then I went slightly downhill again. So that's just how it works naturally. And then at Støren, it was getting like in the evening, and I wanted to have a long food break. So I knew that it was going to charge slow, right? So I had a long food break, but I brought my camera and all that stuff with me, and then I had to shut down the car. So there is no like no charging graph there, but it will be similar to some of the other ones. So anyways, I started at 1756 with 28%. And the temperature was 40 degrees Celsius, and I got 26 kilowatt, and then after almost 1 hour, I came back with 86%. I'm like, oh wow, yeah, that's great, but it stayed very long. Temperature went up slowly, and of course, the problem in Norway, I mean, with Fortum fast chargers, you pay per minute you are connected, not like for instance. Once again, Clever, at those Clever or other places, right? The Clever is in Denmark primarily. You pay per kilowatt hour. We shouldn't have the discussion about kilowatt hour versus minutes, but I think it's fair to pay by minute, because then you discourage people from hogging the charging station and trying to push it to 100% while a bunch of other people are waiting. So the problem is that if you pay per minute, and you have this low charging speed, you almost pay double the price per kilowatt hour. And like I did, I charged there for 1 hour, right? But fortunately, it was no one there when I came. There was no one there when I left. But on the way there, actually, before I went to Trondheim, there were 2 chargers, right? And there were 4 cars, so 2 cars were charging and 2 more cars were waiting. So that's why I didn't want to stay too long. So I'm like, okay, do you have enough? Let's go. Let the other guys have the charger. But you see the problem, however, that if you have this, if you're in Denmark, or when you pay for kilowatt hours, you don't care if it charges slow. You want to take that 1 hour food break, but other people might be pissed because they're waiting for that damn Leaf to slow charge up, and they can see in the display, they can calculate that this guy is charging very slow, right? So I think as a courtesy for other people, or if you have to pay for per minute, then you should consider plugging in on a slow charger if you have that, or just park it there without charging even, because then the car will also cool down. And then when you come back after 1 hour, you can fast charge. But it will be slower, of course, but it might be cheaper if you have to pay per minute. Yeah. And then of course, okay, a little bit more detail about Norway. Fortum, at that location, there were also AC fast charging option. You can use a Type 2 cable, right? And then you can slow charge. But those chargers, you have 22 kilowatt AC, and the car can only utilize 6.6, but you have to pay for 22 kilowatt. You have to pay 1 NOK per minute, and then you only utilize 1/3 of that power. So that is, again, is it fair? Well, yes, in a way it's kind of fair, because you don't want a slow Leaf or a slow Golf hogging the semi-fast charging where the Zoe might need, because the Zoe can only charge on AC, you cannot use DC, so then the Zoe will be pissed, right? Yeah. But if you have access, I mean, if the place you are staying at or whatever, or if you can choose to go for Grønn Kontakt, this is very Norway specific, by the way. Grønn Kontakt, they have this flexi charger. They call it flexi charger, which is AC, same as 22 kilowatt AC, but you pay based on power output. They actually calculate afterwards how much the power was, and then you pay based on that, which is way better for you, of course, as a Leaf owner. Or if you can find like a free charger somewhere, yeah, we can just plug in. So that could be a solution, yeah. All right, so I had lots of juice this time, so I figured, okay, Støren, maybe I can go for Alvdal, but just to be sure, I stopped at Kvikne again. because I didn't want to, based on earlier experience, I didn't want to drive the car low because, that would cause more heat. So just to be sure, I stopped at Kvikne. But you see, on the way back from Støren to Kvikne, see that my speed was never as high as before. I cruised at 82, 83 something. This was in 80 zones. I was doing just barely over speed limit. But on the other hand, I mean, was this like a typical Leaf owner? Maybe not, because most Leaf owners, they don't know that the speedometer is way off. So in 80 kilometers per hour, they would cruise at 80 kilometers per hour on the speedometer, and then the real speed would be, 73. But I was actually doing the speed limit plus a little bit more because I didn't want to have these trucks behind me, right? And then in Kvikne, nothing special, slow speed, yeah, temperature slowly going up. But you see that I arrived with 50% state of charge, and I left with 61, so I topped up 11% just to be sure. But when I arrived in Alvdal, you see that, oh wait, hang on, no, that was, yeah, okay, and then I drove to Alvdal. But you see that on my trip from Kvikne to Alvdal, the state of charge went from a little over 60 to, let me see here, it's like 30, yeah, a little over 30. Well, that means that I could have arrived in Alvdal with a little over 20, which is actually within the safe zone. Yeah, 20 on Leaf Spy is about 10 on the display, and that 10 is the lowest you should go on the display. So yes, if I knew, then I could have done it, but I didn't want to take a chance, because it's like the reason why I charge extra in Kvikne is because you had to go on this like elevation 733 meter over sea level. So it was hard to predict, and this will also be for people, even for me, even for me it was hard to predict because I didn't know the car too much. I knew the terrain. I have driven that route probably over 100 times. You guys who follow me, you know that I know that route by heart. And then, okay, in Alvdal, we see something else interesting here. I started charging, right? And I think the car was charging at about 27 kilowatt around there. Yeah, so I was happy. And then you see that the charging speed kind of goes a little bit down because I turned on the heater. I want to have it nice and warm in here. Yeah, so I had to sacrifice that. I mean, if you want to charge the fastest way, you have to turn off the heater, or you could turn on the heater and then switch on recirculation to try to save some energy. But in the end, by using the heater, you sacrifice charging speed. But you see that, okay, the temperature went up. When we plugged in, it was a little over 40 degrees Celsius. And then someone at the live stream suggested something like, what if you unplug and plug in again? So I did that, and you see what happened. I unplugged and plugged in, and then the speed dropped. Yeah. And the explanation is that when you plug in, that's when the car checks for temperature, and then sets the maximum. So we see that at 40 degrees Celsius, the maximum was 27, I guess, and then at 46 or 47 degrees Celsius, the maximum was only like 21. So keep this in mind, also if you have if maybe in your country the charger has a 30-minute timer, then that could be a disadvantage, because then after 30 minutes you have to restart, and then you have more heat, and then you will get lower speed. So in that case, I mean, if I knew about this, I would try to cool down the battery as much as possible before I plug it in, just to get the best speed. But on the other hand, getting more speed means that you will also heat up the battery faster. Yeah, but you see, I have this table. I try to estimate based on all the different charging stops I had. I try to estimate, and then the blue ones are the actual data I have, and then the white ones are just extrapolated data. It seems like if the battery is too cold, then you won't be able to get maximum speed. But after a while, yes, you get that one. And okay, here is a better graph to what the heck? What happened to my computer? Right there. Okay. So here we see the graph, and yeah, it seems like it drops and drops based on how hot it is. But it's not like some people might think that, you know, it's based on how many times you fast charge. But based on what I've seen here, it's not the number of fast charging, it's the temperature. So it means if you hammer it from the start, if you live in Spain where it's nice and hot, you hammer it on the motorway, already at the first fast charging session, you might get nerf speed. Yeah. And also, okay, so after Alvdal, I went towards Rena, and this time I tried to drive even slower. Yeah. So you see that I was cruising, okay, on the speedometer was 80, I was cruising at 73, and later I dropped it to 63 kilometers per hour only, because I figured out that driving all that day throughout the whole day, and there was almost no cars and almost no trucks. So I think that was unusual, because again, I've taken that route many times, and if I drive a little bit too slow for some reason, I will get hammered I will get overtaken by trucks, semis, you know, on those long stretches. This time I could drive very long, and it was like only a few times I had to like stop or let some cars pass me. So that was nice, but this is not something you can expect doing. But on the other hand, if you go on a typical like Friday afternoon with lots of traffic, then you can also expect slow speed, you know, congestion or whatever. And that is also good for the car, because then it gets a chance to cool down the battery while it's just stuck in traffic anyway. But you see that I managed to drop the temperature quite a lot. And first I was thinking about, okay, go Alvdal, and then I wanted to stop at this fast charger. It was Honest. No, it was, I actually went past several charging stations. There was Evenstad. First I was like, okay, I'm going to stop there. Now let's keep going, okay? Then I went to, I don't remember, but I stopped at Rena. I skipped some fast chargers and stopped at Rena. And this time I also tried to deep discharge, and again, that wasn't optimal. So one thing is that when the displayed state of charge, I mean the state of charge in the car goes below 9%, you get the low battery warning. And once below 9% there, then you have no heater. Well, I don't know if it's like off, but it's very limited. It will try to save energy. But the problem is once you start charging. But by the way, and again, as before, also the heat loss will be greater. But this time I was driving only at 63 kilometers per hour. So it seems like the heat loss was not that significant anymore. Yeah, fortunately, if you drive slow. So I think that will also be a pro tip if you want to, I don't know, if you need to go deep or low, try to drive slow. Yeah, to avoid that heat loss when discharging. But there's one thing you cannot avoid if you go deep like this, is that once you start charging, the temperature will go up. So you see here that at low state of charge, temperature went up more than at higher state of charge. And also I tried to fine calculate, and you see that at low state of charge, for each state of charge you add, the temperature goes up by 0.5 degrees Celsius up until, I don't know, it says 0.5 and then 0.3, and then and then it stabilizes. But keep in mind also, I mentioned that at low state of charge and below 9% there is no heater. So when I plugged in, you see the charging power was like 32 kilowatt, right? And then but the heater was off and I was freezing, so I wanted to keep the heater. I sacrificed the charging speed. So as soon as the state of charge went high enough, which is 20% here, which is about 10%, it was spot on 9% on the display. Then suddenly the heater fired up. I saw it in Leaf Spy. Heater fired up. I was like, oh, nice. Yeah. But of course, that also means that at that low state of charge, I was charging faster than at higher. But you see that the tapering off of speed comes earlier. The tapering off at speed comes at around 16, 17%, 18, yeah. So I think this concludes that you shouldn't go low. This confirms that you shouldn't go low, below 10%. Yeah, it has several disadvantages. Then I charged to, I don't know, I charged a very long time there. I don't know why I stayed for long. I think I tried to figure out where the next one would be. Yeah. Then again, not Nebenez, but this time it was really like a night and I didn't have to hammer anyone. And I just stayed there and still drove slow. And you can see that also on the motorway, I drove slow. But first, there's like this dip when I came to the motorway and I started cruising at 100 kilometers per hour on the speedometer, which is 92, 93, right? But then soon I found out that there wasn't too many trucks here. So let's slow down again. Yeah, I want to slow down and see what happens. So just to try to get the temperature down again. And then at Nebenez, okay, something wrong happened with my log files. I think I lost the last part here. But anyway, so this is a part from the charging log file. So it doesn't show you all the temperature sensors, only from the T1 sensor, but that's fine. This is as expected. You see, when I plug in, it was slightly higher, but then I fired up the heater, so yeah, it was cold outside and windy. So I charged it up, not too much, and then on the way back again, I don't have a log here, but I didn't drive too fast because I wanted to cool down the battery, and after all, it's not my car. So but I noted that I started with 44 degrees when I left Nebenez, and I came home with 41 degrees Celsius. And then I let it cool down during night. I plug it in, charge at 3 kilowatt overnight, and 14 and a half hours later, it was 16 degrees Celsius. So it cooled down quite a lot. But on the other hand, when I started the trip before that, it was 10.6. So and this, I mean, 14 and a half is long. I mean, for instance, if you hammer it, drive a whole day, and then you sleep over, and then you start again, you might have, like, say, a 10-hour break, right? So you can expect that, yes, during the night, the battery will cool down, but on the next day, you start with slightly warmer battery than the first day. Yeah, just keep in mind that, in case you want to, like, go to one place and go back again. And then, yes, so there was, like, I don't know, a 1.7% per hour 1.7 degrees Celsius drop, but that drop is not linear. It seems like it drops faster in the beginning and then it kind of tapers off. Yeah. Anyway, what kind of recommendations do I have for long trips? Well, this is similar I talk about in the short video, that you can expect about 300 to 400 kilometers before you get this reduction in charging speed, and you shouldn't cruise more than 100 kilometers per hour on the speedometer, preferably even slower if you could. Yeah, slower is better for temperature. And then try to reach the charger with 10 to 20% on the display, because if you reach the charger with too high state of charge, for instance, you reach it with 50%, then that means that you have a lot of juice already. You don't need to charge there, but the temperature is also high, so you will constantly, you know, charge with high temperature and then just kind of push it up and down. But if you if you go lower to 10-20%, then you get the chance to cool down the battery, and then when you plug it in, you get slightly better speed. And then, okay, very long video, I should stop soon. To try to summarize this, I mean, will this affect many people? I think not really, because many people who uses Leaf, you know, they will just use it for a local commute, so for them it doesn't matter. But the problem is that this larger battery will attract more new customers. Like, I mean, you have these kind of customers who already have the 24 or the 30, and then they go for the 40, just like the owner of this car, right? But you also have other people who is like, yes, I can finally make the move and move to EV. Now we have, you know, affordable car that can take long trips. So they could be disappointed, you know, thinking that this could just go for it. Even that I saw a video on the guy. There's a vlogger called Lemon Tea Leaf. He said that, you know, he lives in UK, and if he wants to take a holiday trip to France, he really has to consider it, because it's going to be cumbersome. But again, he also mentioned that Nissan, they have this deal where the customers can borrow a fossil car for this number of days, for long trips. So, but on the other hand, he also said that, you know, he wants to use his own car, and I can fully understand him. You know, he wants to use his own car rather than having to borrow a car for long trips. And then towards the end, let me explain a little bit more. Like, Why does this happen with the 40 kilowatt-hour Leaf and not the 24 and the 30, right? So I tried to dig into some of the history because I didn't really pay too much attention to the history of Leaf. So what I found so far was that in 2011 and 2012, the 24 kilowatt-hour models, the early models had problems in hot climate, like in Arizona or other places where it was hot. They experienced massive capacity loss. I'm talking about 25% here. That is massive in comparison. Cars with thermal management, they should have less than 5% within a few years. So Nissan, they introduced this Lizard cell that are supposed to be more resistant to heat. They introduced that in about the 214 to 215. From 215, all the new cars from Nissan and from the Leafs they had the Lizard cells. Yeah, but also the 30 kilowatt-hour packs, they charge faster than 24. So that was a good thing, of course, for the users, but they also degraded faster, according to some studies. I haven't tested it, I just read it. So that's why they had to throttle the 40 kilowatt-hour to slow down the degradation. And why did they do it now and not before? Well, apparently, you have this company called Automotive Electric Supply Corporation, AESC. It was a joint venture between Nissan and NEC, and they supply the batteries for the 24 and 30 kilowatt-hour. And back then, Nissan could, they could kind of like push the batteries. They could abuse the batteries more because they could just get them under warranty from AESC, right? But now there's been some sales, and I don't know about this, but the thing is that Nissan kind of sold this deal now. So now Nissan does not own AESC anymore. It's from an independent company, and they have stricter requirements for the battery warranty to be valid. Yeah. So yeah. And the last thing I would talk about, by the way, because some people also ask me about this, is what about e-Golf? Because most other cars, actually pretty much every other car that EV in the same class here, the same price range, they have thermal management, except for e-Golf. Many people might not know that, but e-Golf does not have active cooling either. But why is there no like another Volkswagen scandal? I think I know why, because the e-Golf has lower nominal voltage. And what that means is that the voltage on the Golf is lower than most other EVs in the same class here. And as you've seen before, I explained about maximum speed and whatever. That means that when the e-Golf is charging, it will receive slower charging than all the other EVs. It will typically get 35 to 40 kilowatt only. And that is, in a way, positive for heat generation, because it will build up less heat, because obviously it's charging slower. And also another thing is that in the e-Golf, the charging speed is not displayed anywhere. The charging speed was not displayed in the older version of Leaf. It was just with the new one that they introduced that thing. They started displaying the charging speed, and then people started complaining because they suddenly knew more. So what you don't know is good, right? And the last thing is that e-Golf is supposed to be about 20% more efficient than Leaf. That is also very important, because that means that you can go further before you have to charge it. And then for most people, they will not experience, or they will not see the whole slow charging. But I experienced it when I tested e-Golf during summer. Yeah, the speed dropped to about 30, 35. I think it was around 30 kilowatt. Yeah, after about 400 kilometers of hammering. Yeah. So yeah. So I think that's it. I'm running out of time. Yeah, and you guys are probably bored now. So that was a lot of stuff about the Leaf. So I hope you guys had the use of this, and I actually hope some people at Nissan also watch this, because I think they want to know this. Yeah. I have some dialogue with Nissan, and they actually they like some of my feedback from other videos before. Yeah, so I don't know, I can give them all the logs if they want. Yeah, but I think that's it for now. Hope you guys like this. So yeah, talk to you later.